Hi everybody. I hope everybody, is having a somewhat relaxing Saturday. It's pretty hot outside here in the valley, so I've been trying to stay cool inside since I got home from work. So I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about a few points that I thought were really interesting in the article. And the first one is going to be where it talks about women in sport. So the portion of the article kicks off by saying one must first realize the development and evolution of their involvement and participation in sport, and most importantly for our purpose, how that intersects with concepts of gender. So I'm going to relate this to when I worked for Campus Recreation. I started talking with my director, about how I wanted to move up the ladder and eventually be a director of Campus Rec. And I quickly realized, with her guidance, that there's not a lot of female directors that work in campus recreation. My director was a female, and she, taught me all that I could have learned for campus rec. But she also taught me about all the gender barriers that she had to face to become a director. And there's a lot of male directors, whether it be, assistant directors, associate directors. It's rare when you find a woman that's a director of a whole campus recreation. So this portion of the article really brought me back to a study that I did while working for Campus Rec. So the article continues by saying, more specifically, the female gender, when compared to males, has been assumed to be less capable or less worthy of analogs, social, cultural, and professional opportunities. So when I worked for Campus Rec, I did I did a research with my associate director of student development, who is also a woman, and we titled our presentation and our research Wonder Women, Building Confidence and Character. So we gathered a few of our student employees that worked for Campus Rec, specifically the ones that worked for our fitness department, and we did a little study. We asked the female assistants. We had one dress with makeup, her hair done, very presentable. And then we had another one, not as presentable. She had her hair, just pulled up instead of down. She didn't wear, tight clothes. She just wore, loose sweatpants and no makeup. And we had the two at work approach males who were working out in the weight room. As a fitness assistant, you were not required, but you were recommended, to approach people that were working out and question if they needed help. And we noticed that a lot of the males that were working out wouldn't approach our instructor that was dressed more feminine. They approached the one that was dressed less feminine for assistance when working out in the weight room. So we took that information back to our study and to our presentation amongst the rest of the female staff, and we had a discussion. Why is it that people think that females don't have strength? Why do they think that females are not capable of, handling things that males would tend to handle? Because nobody has had an issue approaching males to assist them in the weight room. But when it came to women, they say they were skeptical as to the females' appearances before asking them for assistance with lifting weights and things like that. So aside of that, where it says in the professional opportunities, that's where I link it back to noticing that there wasn't as many females in higher leadership positions within campus recreation. To me, that is a very, really, really, really big issue. I want to know, is it because they think we're not capable of being a director? Because there's a lot of males that are capable of being directors, and there's a lot of females out there, like myself, that are striving to be in that type of leadership position. So that really, struck my attention with this portion of the article. And then it goes on and says an era of significant political and social change for women took place during the 1960s and 1970s, altering beliefs about the interests, abilities, roles, and responsibilities for women. I know this because I worked for Campus Rec, and I stay I stay involved with, going back and keeping in touch with people that work for Campus Rec. And women are growing. There's a lot more positions out there that females are getting, whether it be for Campus Rec. Let's take, for example, Becky Hammon. She was the second or the first full-time basketball coach assistant for the NBA. So you see, there's so many opportunities that I think women just need more time, and women just need more chances to be able to prove to themselves that, compared to men and compared to males, they can become somebody of higher authority. There's so many positions out there in the sports industry that are predominantly run by males, and that's why the sports organizations, some of them don't grow. Some of them aren't grasping other concepts of their organization because all they have is males. There needs to be a line drawn, and women just need more opportunities to be in there professionally in the sports field and sports industry as a whole. So this portion of the article, really, really caught my attention, and it meant a lot to me just because I personally did some research back at Campus Rec, and even a side note to that, a lot of the males there was a few males of higher authority that worked there with me that weren't too happy that myself and another assistant director decided to do that presentation, because to them they were questioning, well, what about what's the other one? They said we based it off of Wonder Woman, and they were like, what about Superman? How come we don't have a presentation on males in the workplace? I took that really, really personally, and that right there itself just kind of shows you where we stand, with society and with males versus females in the sports industry. But another quick thing that also caught my attention was where they talk about marketization, and it talks about, youth sports. So I currently work for a community center, and, at our center, we don't aim to make profit. We aim to meet the needs of others, and we aim to make amends and, to have a solid revenue. So when it says here that there has been an 8% or is down 8% over the last 10 years for youth sport participation, I can totally testify to that. Our numbers compared to not a couple years ago have dramatically decreased. I was lucky enough to get some of our numbers up about, maybe 10 to 20 participants, but it is true that this really affects girls in low-income households when it comes to youth sports, because there's so many competitions out there for organizations that are for-profit, and they're at a win-at-all-cost, according to this article. And it is true. It says low-income household children are half as likely to participate, and youth sport is increasingly becoming the have and the have-nots, which really, really does affect girls in low-income households. At where I work, we try to offer enough programs for young boys as well as for young girls. But, we're on a day-to-day basis, to be totally honest with you all, we have parents that come in and are like, they voice their opinion about a volleyball class. How come there's a boy in our volleyball class? In our all-star sports class, are girls allowed to participate? Or how come the coaches are females? And how come the coaches aren't males if they're teaching them basketball? So this also is really important, because it says here, parents are creating a league with the sport for all mentality, and players playing for the love of the game has in many cases been replaced by for-profit and sport elite organizations, which is causing a dramatic decrease in our participation rate at our community centers. So that's definitely something that we, in the world or as a society, need to work on. Sports are for everybody, no matter who you are, no matter what gender you are, and it shouldn't come down to your household income. Financial status should be one of the last things that a young girl or young child has to worry about when it comes to just wanting to play for the love of the game. So I don't know if I made any sense throughout, my discussion, but those are just two main topics that really, really caught my attention throughout this article. Of course, there are other topics, about globalization, complexity in the sports, and just a lot of other topics, but mainly women in sport relating to professional jobs within the industry, and then as well, of course, of the youth sports, the decrease in females participating. Those two were things that highlighted, my passion and my current job and my previous jobs and stuff like that. But I hope somebody can relate to what I had to say today. I'm really excited, to keep on learning and to keep these discussions going and whatnot. But I hope everybody has a great Saturday. Tomorrow's Sunday, so let's all have a great weekend. But yeah.